Good day, you're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Danie, Laurel.
And I'm Delos Santos. Here are today's top stories. As the public continues to grapple with soaring prices, President Bongbong Marcos orders the Agriculture Department to speed up the importation of more than 64,000 metric tons of refined sugar.
Approved investments by the Board of Investments rise 11% to nearly 730 billion pesos.
President Bongbong Marcos vetoes 3 items in the 2023 budget. This includes a revolving fund for a project of the Education Department.
And the local board says there appears to be no insider trading in the sell-off of PLDT shares prior to the company's announcement of a budget overrun. Let's begin our broadcast with President Bongbong Marcos ordering the urgent importation of refined sugar in a bid to stabilize the price of this commodity. The importation of 64,050 metric tons of refined sugar will be done through the minimum access volume mechanism. In his order to the Agriculture Department to hasten the importation, the president said he was, quote, concerned with a very high inflation rate of 38% for sugars, confectionery, and desserts in November. Now, farmer group UNIFED, or the United Sugar Producers Federation of the Philippines, has opposed this move and says there's no problem with the sugar supply in the country.
It's not our fault. So it's really way down because daming-dami ng asukal. Ang problema po, nasa retail. It's government's problem on how to implement the SRP.
The Agriculture Department seized millions of pesos worth of smuggled onions hidden inside a shipment of buns or siopaw. In total, 13 container vans were inspected at the Manila International Container Port. Found among boxes of siopaw are red and white onions, estimated to be worth around 88 million pesos. Authorities say the contraband came from China. Kilos of frozen pork, beef, and fish were also confiscated in Manila. The agency warns the public not to patronize smuggled products, especially onions. The DA has earlier warned that E. coli bacteria had been found in some smuggled onions.
Alam natin smuggled yan, lalong malaking puti. Well, sinasabi nga natin, pwede kang lumusot. At 99% sabihin mo na safe ka. Yung 1% kung tamaan siya, mas mahal pa ang ospital kaysa doon sa minura mo doon sa binili mong sibuyas.
The administration started its term with sugar woes, and it seems as though it's going to end the year with some bitter issues still on the agricultural sector. To talk about that, we have Rosendo So, President of the Samahang Industriya ng Agrikultura, or SINAG. Sir Rosendo, good day.
Yeah, Jess, Danie,
All right.
good morning.
Sir, is it a well-calibrated move here for DA Secretary and President Bongbong Marcos to be ordering the importation of sugar at this stage, at the time when, especially now, you have some local producers claiming that milling season is at its peak? Is there even a shortage that needs to be addressed here?
Yeah, Jess, I think the minimum access volume, if it comes in, it will be on January 15 down. No? And we have to just calibrate it for the importation. For example, last year, January, we have imported around almost 20,512 metric tons. And February, 24,595. And March is around 36,000 metric tons. If the importation is calibrated, we don't see any problem. But if the whole volume of 64,000 metric tons come in January, we have some problem because of our farmers still harvesting in first part of January.
Okay.
So 64,000 is quite a problematic figure for you here. If that's the case, what would be an amenable figure here?
If it come in on January, all of the volume. But if it is calibrated up to March.
Better.
We don't see
Better.
any problem.
Kumbaga staggered, ganon.
Okay.
Yeah.
But sir,
Dapat staggered, hindi one volume yung 64.
okay, sir, can you please try to enlighten our viewers here? Why is the inflation of sugar still at 38% as of the last print despite all the efforts to import?
Yeah, because nung last, if you remember, mga last 2 months ago, the miller said that if they start to mill, they will sell at around 54 pesos. And the retail price will go down to 70. But it did not go down. No? It went up to 100, 90 to 100. The white sugar na nakikita natin. So, kaya siguro nakita ng presidente, hindi bumababa. So, they have to import some volume para at least may stabilize yung pressure.
Sir, bakit hindi po bumababa? Is this because there's not enough supply even with the importation, or as was mentioned in one of the thoughts that we ran earlier on, baka it's the retailers that are keeping these prices or not following the SRP?
Yeah, most of the problem nasa distribution tsaka yung retailing, no? Yun ang nakikita natin bakit mataas pa rin ang presyo. Pero kung ang mga miller continuous naman nagmi-mill, we don't see na i-hold ng mga retailer din. So dapat nag-convene ang ng DA ng meeting para at least maayos ito retail and producing problem.
What do you mean exactly, sir, by distribution problems? Hindi equitable yung distribution across the country?
Yes, I think yun ang problema kasi anihan naman itong December is peak of harvest. So marami tayong stocks, no? And yung presyo lang ang problema. But I think they should talk with the miller para at least maayos yung presyo. Hindi naman makahabol yung 64,000 metric tons itong December. The best is talk with the miller para at least maayos yung presyo.
Okay, now give us an idea here on regarding the improvements here over the sugar administration. I mean, again, the administration started the year with a sugar saga over importation orders. Some officials even asked from their posts. Months into that, has there been any improvements?
I think no improvement dun sa SRA kasi hindi na ibaba yung presyo, no? In spite of the importation. November and October, more yung mga dumadating is more on import but the price is still umabot ng 90 to 100. So may problema yung SRA.
Okay.
I think yung people inside SRA may problema.
Sir, is this sugar specific or is it across the board hindi talaga bumababa yung prices of agricultural goods despite the importation that has been approved by the DA?
Yeah, dapat Danie bumaba yung presyo kasi October and September yung presyo naman mostly imported, no? And nakita natin yung sa import price is only 34 pesos. So dapat yung 70 pesos na retail, hindi rason, no, na hindi kaya.
Sir, pero sugar lang ba yan? Or are you seeing it in other agricultural commodities? Bumaba na ba yung ibang prices ng ibang Like, we still have problems with onions, we still have problems with, other issues, even livestock. Ano po yung nag-improve dahil sa importation?
Dahil sa importation, walang nag-improve sa presyo.
I
Yun ang
see.
sinasabi natin, no, doon sa tariff reduction with other products. Hindi nakakatulong yung reduction dahil yung kumikita yung importer. Like this sugar, ang kumita, mga importer. Ang rice, Ang baboy, yung port import ang puunan lang nasa 120, pero ang retail ang taas, no, 260 ang imported na meat. So yun ang sinasabi natin na hindi kumikita ang hindi rason na magbaba ng taripa, and hindi rin nagre-reflect dun sa retail price.
Okay, so this extension ng lower tariffs on these imported agri-goods, nakakasama pa po yun. And you mentioned it does not assist in lowering inflation. Tama po ba?
Yes, oo. And if you see the price of meat for the past 1 year, bumaba yung tariff, pero hindi naman bumaba yung retail price, no? And NEDA has agree with that statement. Yung last year, this year February hearing, sinabi ng NEDA yan na it did not affect the price, to lower the price, no? But it only come in with a big volume. So hindi nakatulong. And with that kasi yung importer can stops.
Yeah.
The stocks kung mababa puunan nila, and of course yung mga producers will just cut down their production.
That also begs...
Like rice, if we can see last year, 82% to 85% na lang ang local production natin. This year, we expect baka nasa 78 to 80% na lang yung local production. It will be lesser, but the price will be higher
same,
because import price is kontrolado ng importer.
I like that also begs a question: is enough also being done to actually boost domestic production?
Yes, parang yung marching order ng presidente hindi sinusunod ng tao sa loob ng Department of Agriculture. Ang planning nila kasi is si Yusek Sumbilya is come from NEDA. So ang direction ng NEDA is stable computation, nasa opisina lang, hindi lumalabas. So yung figure nila hindi nila expect na makuha sa ating mga magsasaka.
Right.
Yun, ang sinasabi nila yung rice baba, sa ground naman tataas ngayon ang presyo ng palay. So tataas yung presyo ng bigas by 2 pesos. So yung sinasabi niya na bababa, mali, no? Tataas yung presyo.
Now, earlier, we were reporting about smuggled goods as well in Subic and in Manila. That includes onions. Funny as it sounds, nakatago sa siopaw. Now, why is this becoming rampant nowadays? And would you say that there's a thriving underground agricultural economy, if we may call it that?
Yeah, just last year, we checked the United Content record compared to importation from custom. Around 32 million of onion had smuggled through our countries. This year, from January to October, almost 20 million na smuggled onion we saw in the importation list of other countries and custom record. And ang port, ang karneng baboy is last year is 176 million kilos, no? Compare between UN record and our custom record. So ibig sabihin talamak pa rin ang smuggle this year. For the past 10 months talamak pa rin. At least ngayon ang ating ASEC James Layog medyo masipag pumuli, no? And we asked for the inspection of 32 container in Subic. Pumayag kagad siya and coordinated with SBMA. We call Senator Aimee last week to call up Subic. Bakit hindi na-check yung 32 containers? And in-schedule nila itong week na ito. Kaya pumunta kami, tinignan natin yung 32 container na in which lahat talagang positive na smuggled goods.
Sir, finally, no, with all of these issues, magpapasko na, is it high time to be appointing a permanent Department of Agricultural Chief? Do you have any updates on that front? We had Lucas Bersamin saying that there were already some names, pero up to now, wala pa pong na-appoint.
Yeah, I think the president should stay up to maybe March, April dahil yung etong commodities natin na yung hindi lang dito sa atin local, no, international market still high ang presyo ng wheat, corn still high, yung mga commodities sa other countries still high, no, and I think the president should support our farmers, and we hope na yung suporta makakarating sa magsasaka. Like itong fertilizer subsidy na release ni Presidente na 4 billion for December. Na-release na yung pondo sa DBM, na ibigay na sa mga region. Ang problema is sa office ni Yusek Ding Panganiban, hindi daw na-release yung coupon or itong butcher na ibibigay sa magsasaka.
Okay, so a lot of issues, no, that he still should be on top of. Maraming salamat po. That was, of course, Rosendo So, President of the Samahang Industriya ng Agrikultura or SINAG. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now let's pause for a quick break, but coming right up after that. PLDT says it has not uncovered any fraud in relation to its budget overrun of 48 billion pesos.
More of that and other stories when Businessworld Live returns. Stay with us.
You're still watching Businessworld Live here on One News. I'm Jess Delos Santos.
And I'm Danie, Laurel. Now, the palace reveals that President Bongbong Marcos vetoed 3 items in the 2023 national budget 1 week after he approved it.
Now, among them is funding for the Education Department's DepEd TV and a provision on changing the country's tourism slogan. Maricel Halili with the report.
President Bongbong Marcos approved last week the 5.2 trillion peso national budget for the 2023, which he called a fine Christmas gift from the legislature.
Well, it is important because the budget is essentially the roadmap that it essentially defines and gives muscle to the roadmap of what we intend to do for the next year.
On Wednesday, Malacanang finally announced the items that failed to make the cut in the next year's spending plan. This includes the revolving fund for the Education Department's instruction initiative, DepEd TV. In his veto message, the president emphasized that there is no law authorizing the DepEd to establish a revolving fund for that specific purpose. He also mentioned that DepEd TV is not a business-type activity, which makes the establishment of a revolving fund prohibited. Another vetoed item in the budget bill was the special provision for the use of the income of the National Labor Relations Commission or NLRC, an agency under the Labor Department. Marcos cited Presidential Decree 1445, which states that the income accruing to the agencies shall be deposited to the National Treasury or any duly authorized government depository. In this regard, the NLRC does not have authority to use its income under existing laws. Its funding requirements for operations will only be taken from its budget under the General Appropriations Act of 2023. Lastly, Marcos rejected the provision under the branding campaign program of the Tourism Department, which states that the appropriations will not be used to change the tourism campaign slogan. Marcos said that this provision intends to limit the exercise of the functions of the executive branch in implementing the Tourism Act of 2009, which should not be the case. Under that law, the DOT is mandated to primarily head the planning, implementation, and everything in between with regard to the promotion of the tourism industry both here and abroad. The president signed his first budget bill into law last Friday, keeping intact controversial provisions, including the Confidential and Intelligence Fund allocated for the Office of the Vice President and DepEd. For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
This from the Philippine Star. Approved investments by the BOI or the Board of Investments rose 11% to 729 billion pesos this year. Trade Secretary Alfredo Pascual says the investment growth shows that investors remain confident in the country's economy despite the impact of the pandemic and the global decline in investments caused by the Russia-Ukraine war. However, Trade Undersecretary and BOI Managing Head Seferino Rodolfo admits that investment approvals would have been higher if not for the Russia-Ukraine war. Rodolfo says this year's approval level was driven by investments in the renewable energy sector. The power sector accounted for 56% of the investments.
The government is eyeing to launch a so-called e-Gov super app next year, which would serve as a one-stop shop for tourists. According to the Tourism Department, visitors will be able to book accommodations and even pay for tickets at airports using the app. The DOT also aims to digitalize the process of buying ferry tickets as it acknowledged issues in accessibility. The DOT, together with the DICT, aim to launch the app by first quarter of next year. Now, aside from a mobile app, the two agencies are also targeting to improve internet connectivity at 94 tourist destinations.
Of course, we have our key destinations like Cebu, Palawan, Boracay, Siargao, and Bohol as well. And we want to expand the quality of the internet to lesser-known destinations also, so that, as I mentioned earlier, we can equalize tourism promotion and development.
PLDT says it will continue to cooperate with authorities' investigation into the company's reported 48 billion peso budget overrun. PLDT says it has responded to requests for clarification from the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Philippine Stock Exchange, and the Capital Markets Integrity Corporation, which handles the inquiry into trading activities ahead of the announcement of the budget overrun. The telco firm notes, though, that so far they have, quote, not unearthed fraudulent activities in relation to the CAPEX overrun. PLDT says it will make necessary disclosures if this changes in the future. Meanwhile, PSC President Ramon Monzon tells One News that one aspect of their investigation assesses whether PLDT provided sufficient or timely disclosure into the matter. For now, Monzon says they see no reason to suspend trading of PLDT stocks.
The disclosure has been made, so all the investors, the whole market is aware of the status. Perhaps when the final results of the investigation are completed and the PLDT submits the results of their final internal investigation, there might be a need to suspend, the trading until that information is disseminated to the public.
Monzon also adds that based on initial reports from the CMIC, there appears to be no insider trading in the sale of PLDT shares last Friday.
why on the surface there does not appear to be any insider trading as reported to me by SIMIC, it's because the sellers of PLDT stocks prior to the disclosure, that Friday closing period, were really foreign brokers and not individual. I mean, foreign brokers, mostly institutional investors. So that is something that CMIC will have to undertake.
Meanwhile, the Securities and Exchange Commission is targeting to fully move its payment channels online and off-site by February of next year. The Commission said this is in line with the SEC's commitment to implement zero face-to-face transactions. Over-the-counter transactions will be accepted until January 31st. All payments will then only be accepted via the Commission's electronic system for payments to the SEC. The Commission also signed a deal with Land Bank to allow SEC-related transactions through the bank's online collection facility in all branches nationwide.
And those are the biggest stories on the economic and corporate front today. I'm Jess Delos Santos.
And I'm Danie, Laurel. We are One News, all sides, all the time. But don't go away. We'll give you the latest on the local bourse when Businessworld Live returns. Stay with us.
And you're still watching Business World Live here on One News. Now, Dan, the media was not accommodated during the PLDT briefing yesterday. Just had investors present there. But it seems as though, basing it on the stock movement yesterday, some fears were actually quelled.
Exactly. Well, you know, quelling fears is a big term there, especially for a stock that fell more than 20%. But like you mentioned, no, this bump up happened right after the 2 p.m. briefing, which is around 2 hours. So, you know, it's during the end of the trading day na rin. And if you can see the last 3 days, it's actually gained 5%. But I'll just take you through the 1 month chart here, Jess, which does show that nevertheless, it's really far from the levels. It's still down by 22% or 21.5%. This, of course, as they denied fraudulent activities, and they did mention they could not disclose anytime sooner. But they also did just disclose today that the CFO, Annabel Chua, is not suspended. She is actually on paid leave and is available to answer questions and provide clarifications. And like we just reported earlier, the PSE is looking at the trades that happened from November to December 16. They will be issuing a report to the SEC, which might take about a week. So something to be watching out for there. So still, you know, on wait and see mode, Jess. And just before we end the broadcast, a quick check on our index and how it's doing today, firming up above 6,500 levels here with Converge leading the charge, and ICTSI that is up by about 0.4% this Thursday morning.
And that's it for today, December 22, 2022. Join us again tomorrow at exactly 9:30 a.m. You can also catch us on Signal Play. Register for your free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Jess De Los Santos.
And I'm Danie, Laurel. Stay safe, Philippines. We are One News, all sides, all the time.